Alright, so today we're going to be tying a very well-known fly pattern. This is the elk hair caddis, and in my opinion, it's one of the best flies of all time, especially when it comes to dry flies and caddises. And this one was first tied in, I believe, 1954 by Al Troth in Pennsylvania. And yeah, this is one of my personal favorite flies for targeting panfish, and it became well known through trout, but I don't have many trout here in middle Georgia. And yeah, let's get to tying. The materials you'll need are brown elk hair. The hackle, I use a brown barred ginger hackle from this little Cree cape I have. For the body, I do hare's ear dubbing. And then for the ribbing, I do copper wire. I'm also going to apologize if I cough at all during this video. I have nasty allergies this time of year. Every year it hits me, so yeah, I apologize for that. So I'm tying this one in size 10, as this is the size I use for panfish, and it's probably the best size for showing it on camera. It's reasonably large, but not so large that it distracts from the process of tying. I begin my thread base and bring it back to around the bend of the hook, and then I tie in my copper wire, because one thing that needs to be thought about when you're tying flies with more than one thing being tied in at the same time is whatever you wrap around last, you want to tie in first so that you can tie everything in front of it. Next, I take my hackle, and you see, I select one of these style feathers. These, like, barred ginger is what I believe it's called. So I select one, I just stretch it around the hook and see if the fibers are too long. And with that one, they actually are. So you want to find one with relatively small fibers. I prefer my hackle on this fly to go down to around the point of the hook. Here's one that I believe will work. So yeah, you can see that goes right down to just right around the point of the hook. You want to trim your hackle to length and strip the bottom bit so that you have a good tie-in point. Next, you're going to take your hare's ear dubbing. You can also use tan chenille or any other variety of like tan brown dubbings. I dub a fairly thick noodle because you do want a relatively thick body on this. Normal caddises, which I believe caddises is classified as all moths, so you can imagine like a moth has a fatter body than, say, a stonefly or a mayfly would proportionally. I give it a slight taper, but almost a double taper to where it's like an egg almost. So it comes out on one side and then, or it comes out in the middle and then comes back in. You can also do like what I've done for this specific fly, just a fairly even body. Next, I take my dubbing and I use the rotary setting on my vise to wind the dubbing in non-touching turns up the hook. I take a tight wrap of thread to secure the dubbing. Not the dubbing, sorry. I don't know why I've been saying dubbing. The hackle. And I trim it at the stem. I stroke back the fibers of the hackle. And then go to my ribbing. I'm going to take probably like 10-15 wraps because I counter wrap with my wire so that it doesn't trap as many hackle fibers. You can also, if you're just regularly wrapping, just wiggle it around. I prefer counter wrapping though. Just sort of shake it around like so. Alright, I'm actually messing up the body with this, so I'm just going to try a normal wrap and see if anything turns out differently with that. So you can see there, I tied down very few hackle fibers with my wire. And to trim your wire, you can either helicopter it or take an older pair of scissors, which this was my first pair of tying scissors. They're ridiculously dull by now, but I just use them to cut wire. Some people use nail clippers, which I think is a great idea as well. Next, you're going to reach for your hair stacker. And you're going to use this to stack your elk hair. So when I select elk hair to cut for this fly, I fold it over itself like so that I can select the fibers that I want in the area that I want. And then I trim them like so. And you see the tips aren't aligned, so this is where your hair stacker comes in. You simply drop your tips in, and you can tap them in. And then this next part's going to be a bit loud, but you tap it on your table 4 or 5 times to get them all aligned. So now your fibers are aligned, so you take your hair stacker like so and lay it sideways. You open it up. You strip the extras. And you're left with pretty much perfectly aligned tips. Now you trim the hair evenly. You can do that when you trim the head down, but I prefer just getting it done with. Now to tie in the wing, you simply take a loose wrap or two and then tighten the wrap going down. Take multiple tight wraps. However, you do not want to distract from the profile of the head. That's what makes the elk hair caddis so iconic as a fly, is the flared up head with elk hair. Next, simply reach for your whip finisher and tie your whip finish on the area of thread that you tied down the hair with. You can apply a little head cement if you want to, and for this fly, I don't recommend UV cure or like a larger head cement, like a thicker one. I recommend just a water-based head cement. I guess you could use like a just a typical head cement. However, I prefer a water base on this, and honestly, I don't use head cement on most of my caddis patterns. So, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something today. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy it, and check out my Instagram at fliesandfinesse and my Etsy at Theflytieguy if you want to buy some of these flies.